Welcome to the Radical Responsibility Revolution podcast. This is where we are transforming lives, inspiring you to reclaim your health, your wealth, and the power of your mind. Here we share actionable insights, inviting you to turn inwards and design your life of purpose and abundance. Welcome back to another episode of Radical Responsibility Revolution. And today I want to talk about the abundance code because everybody wants to know the code for everything. I think this is a new phenomenon, actually. And I'm going to talk about the abundance code and Ikigai because if you haven't ever heard of Ikigai, you're in for an absolute treat today. So settle in, get your cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a glass of water in a wine glass, or something else that gives you that cozy, fun feeling. Because I'm going to start with a question. Have you ever looked at your life, your work, your calendar, your obligations, and thought, this is successful, but it doesn't feel alive? We've really programmed ourselves to believe that success means something when success is so void of all of those great things that we really desire in our life. So when you look at your life and you feel that sense of somewhat success, it may not be bad, it may not be broken, it's just oddly hollow, like hollow inside. And if that resonates with you, then stay with me because I want to talk about what that is for all of us as these human species, especially women, that we're feeling this sense of hollowness, of emptiness. Because today I'm talking about something that quietly changes everything when you truly, truly understand it. Not just in your business, because that's important, but in your entire life. And that is what I'm talking about today is the Ikigai. It's such a cool Japanese word, and I'm going to share with you where it comes from, what it is, and how you can have more of it. And trust me when I say this isn't a rebranding hustle kind of thing or productivity trend, because honestly, these trend things are driving me a little crazy. This is about alignment so deep that life stops feeling like effort. And then I want to begin to talk about why this matters so much now in 2026. For those of you don't know anything about numerology, we are in year one of 9 year cycles. We just came out of the ninth year, which just means 1 through 9 before this year was all about the newness, the enlightenment, and then all of the troubles that we've had to go through. So anybody that experienced 2025 and says that we were going through chaos, yes, we were. We were breaking down in the ninth cycle. And now we're in cycle one and we are rebuilding. We are reimagining what our world is going to be. And we're living in this moment up until 2026 where burnout was normalized. And if you're still doing it, it's time to say, there's a better way. We've lived through these thousands of years that overwork is rewarded and exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor. And it's time to say, look, there is a different way. And especially if you're a founder, an entrepreneur, a leader, or a woman who's been taught to believe this big fat lie. And that big fat lie is about carrying everything for everybody. And sadly, we've all been sold this idea, this crazy idea that success requires sacrifice. Fulfillment comes later, and peace is something you earn after you prove yourself. None of that's true, but those are the things that we have been taught. And here's the truth I want to offer you instead, very gently, but very clearly. If your life requires chronic self abandonment, which is what all of that is, it is not a success. It is just a hustle. It is just being in a hamster wheel. I don't know about you, but I've had a hamster when I was growing up. And I didn't think they look like they're happy, but I think they're stressed out and anxious. And as much as I teach about abundance, no amount of money fixes misalignment. So if you're misaligned and you have cash coming in, and everybody I know can tell a story of a billionaire or a millionaire that they know that's greedy, that's not happy. I mean, money doesn't buy happiness. That saying is actually true. It makes life a little easier, but money doesn't fix any misalignment. What exactly is Ikigai? Ikigai is a Japanese concept that loosely translated means the meaning of life. This is the question of all time. Everybody's at some point wondered in their version of this question, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? Have you ever noticed that? And there is no real answer. People have a version of their answer. There's a great movie. It's a book. I didn't read the book. I only watched the movie called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it's so funny. If you've never watched it, please do yourself a favor and watch it because it's such a satire on our world. There's a portion where they're asking the big ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. They ask it of this supercomputer of deep thought, right? It's just a big television screen. It's quite hilarious, actually. And after deep thought, this moment of pause, the deep thought supercomputer comes back and says 42, because that's how silly this question is. That's why. Oh my gosh, I digress when I talk about the Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy. It's a fabulous movie or book, but that's how silly this is, that we're not paying attention to what the ultimate answer to life is of the universe. And so I'm about to tell you, it's Ikigai. This barely scratches the surface because Ikigai, there's no word like it anywhere in the world. It's just this beautiful Japanese phrase. And it matters more now than ever. And I'm going to share with you how the research showed up for people that were in their Ikigai. And it matters more now because baby boomers have passed the last mile marker. I'm a baby boomer. I'm 70. Gen Xers are not far behind. Gen Xers are, they're all turning 60 now. And this is why it's so important to understand this energy is permeating the planet. So let me share why Ikigai has always stopped me in my tracks when I begin to look at it more deeply. It's not because it sounded spiritual, but because it shows up in these real human lives. There are examples of this, especially in people over 70. So, of course, I knew about it before I was 70, but now that I'm really deep into this idea of Ikigai. There's a village in Okinawa, Japan. It's called Ogimi Village, and it's often referred to as this village of longevity. And I have had many conversations with people that say, I don't want to live to be 100. Oh my God, that sounds horrible. The reason it sounds horrible to them is because they don't want to feel like crap. And that's a vitality thing. That is a longevity that comes with vitality. And if you're just going to waste away, what is the point exactly? I'm not really sure. I look at my 88-year-old mother and I wonder, what is driving you to stay in this body, honestly? But researchers didn't go to this village looking for productivity hacks. That wasn't the purpose of this. They went there looking for answers because this is what when we're curious, which I believe that curiosity should be the word of 2026. They went there looking for answers, and what they found was so radical, so radical. And the author of this book, Hector Garcia, he interviewed over 100 elderly residents. And these were people not just in their 70s, they were well into their 70s, their 80s, even their 90s. They're still active, still mentally sharp, socially engaged, and deeply, this one makes me a little bit teary eyed, deeply alive. Like I said, what is the purpose of having all of this wisdom and being in a body that isn't functioning? And so he asked them, what keeps them going? Every single person could answer immediately. And these are not vague ideas that they responded with. They're not cliches. Like, I drink a cup of coffee every day. I eat bacon every morning. I have a glass of whiskey every night. They said things like, my friends, my garden, my art, my role in the community. And they knew clearly what made life worth living. That's what Ikigai is. And here's the part that I love the most because I've done a couple of podcasts on retirement. It's about rewiring and refiring because these elders, they weren't retired in the way we think about it. This Western culture, we have it so backwards. They were still working and creating and contributing and gathering, laughing, singing karaoke, and celebrating birthdays together. They were living life. And more importantly, they were living life together. Not because they had to. They weren't put in a home. This is who their essence is. And there was a Japanese survey that found nearly half, half of people over 70. And in this country, I don't know that we can say that. I could go to, every community in the United States and probably not find 70-year-olds that are still actively working, enjoying hobbies, or participating in community life. Here's the kicker. We have lost this desire to stay vitally alive after this imaginary retirement age. This kicker is the study that showed that people over 65 who only worked for financial reasons. It's all about your motivation, it's all about your intention. So, these people that were over 65 who worked only for financial reasons versus those who worked in pursuit of their ikigai had 1.5 times greater risk of physical and functional decline just 2 years later. I have said this story before about my grandmother dying. Basically, she got leukemia directly after she retired, and then she died. And I stood over her coffin and yelled at her, said, "How could you give up that easily?" But let that land. Only 2 years after that, when they decided that they just needed to work for money, that's when life declined. Meaning isn't a luxury. We've treated it as if it is. It's not a nice to have. It's the health and vitality and longevity in action. So this is why the Japanese government, instead of our government, we're just giving you a little extra here and a little extra there and saying, "Oh, poor old people." This is why the Japanese government actively supports employment and social engagement for their seniors because they recognize that they are the wisdom bearers. They understand something our culture, I could say, have forgot, but I don't think we ever knew it in the first place. We've never treated our senior community like they were the wisdom bearers, the way showers. Instead, we put them in this category and then let them deteriorate and die. A life without purpose deteriorates faster. So if you've gone your whole life as a senior that's 70 years old right now and you've been taught and program that your success was dependent on your job and all the money that you could accumulate then, and that you better live on this measly little bit going forward, and nothing else about you, your purpose, your passion just cease to exist. Geez, no kidding, people want to die. Or they just crawl up in a ball and they deteriorate in these old folks' homes. It's making me cry a little bit right now. And this isn't just about older adults. This is the thing, is that we have been giving this message for thousands of years and it is a lie. When Garcia wrote this book, looked at younger generations, the data was really fascinating. This is what's so cool, is that this Ikigai isn't just for old folks, by the way. There was a UNICEF survey across 21 countries, and over a third of young people said they regularly felt anxious or worried. Now, I know in the United States of America, that's probably two-thirds, not a third. I mean, these kids are committing suicide and they're telling us all the time that they're so anxious and worried about life. for no reason, honestly, other than this mental programming that we've been passing around. And the internet just accentuates it and accelerates it. And then you become addicted to that feeling. And that nearly 1 in 5 felt depressed or disconnected from life. Okay, I know if you're around kids, you know this to be the truth, or if you watch any kind of anything, the stats are out there. This is an epidemic. I don't care what COVID was. This is the real epidemic. And so Garcia went on and he wrote in this Ikigai for teens. He said, if I had known about Ikigai when I was young, my life would have been different. So if you knew about it when you were young, would your life be different right now? And can you start right now? 100%. Ikigai isn't about age. It's about being needed by life. Oh my gosh. I want to say that again. It's about being needed by life. If you know what being needed by life feels like, you are absolutely ignited when you wake up in the morning, all the way to when you go to sleep. And Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, one of my favorite models of what life is about and that we are always at choice. He was a psychiatrist on top of everything else. But he said what man actually needs is not a tensionless state. Believe me, when you're in a Holocaust prison, you're not tensionless. What a man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but the striving and struggling for some goal worthy of him. It's about struggling for some goal that's worthy of yourself, not stress. That's not worthy of you. Burnout is not worthy of you, but meaningful engagement. What does that even look like for you? Most of us never slow down enough to notice what that might be because that is what keeps people alive at 20, at 50, at 70, and beyond. And this is why Ikigai is not just a career concept, because we've boxed in this idea of career as if it's something different and separate and apart from us. And it's not that. And it's not find your passion and monetize it. I know that I share about purpose and passion a lot, but it's about asking what still wants to move through me? What is the passion and purpose that you're bringing to this world? What still matters at any point of your life? Because it's going to change from when you're 14 to when you're 20 to when you're 55 to when you're 70 to when you're 90. Something is always moving through you. That is the essence of life. So, where do you belong in the flow of life right now? When we remove that question from our daily life, we don't just lose motivation, we lose vitality. Listen, this is important. This is about our longevity, but our vitality while we're in it. So, Ikigai is not a job. Nope, it's not a role, it's not a brand. It's this beautiful state of coherence and congruence. So that if you begin to listen to your soul, listen to yourself, listen to your inner whispers, she will always speak to you, but you have to slow down enough to listen. So, to sort of sum up Ikigai for those of you that have never heard of this before, it sits at the intersection of four things. And those four things are what you love. So ask yourself that question today. What do you love? What do you love doing, being, sharing? And the next intersection is what are you naturally good at? What do you show up as and you know is your superpower, but you don't do anything about it? And the third one is what does the world need from you that you can serve the world with? And that comes from that soul purpose place. It may be what you're naturally good at, or you may just feel that energy being pulled out of you. And then fourth is what can you be paid for? How can you take all of that and then create the monetization? But that's the last pillar of this. It isn't where you start. And most people only apply this to a career because if you're not looking at it from the perspective that this is how you show up, how you be in the world, that's where we go wrong. Ikigai isn't about what you do. It's about who you are being. Are you being true to yourself? I did a podcast yesterday about creating a business from your purpose and your passion. And sadly, here's what I see when I share that concept. It isn't the intersections that I shared with you just now. It's about most people try to just find their purpose the same way that they pick a niche, right? Niches get stitches. Then they choose a business model or they optimize a funnel and they think, oh my God, I'm living my purpose and my passion. I'm going to tell you something. I can tell you chapter and verse of people that have lived their passion and then the money just flows in, as opposed to they go out seeking to create money around their purpose, because that's truly not their purpose, I can assure you. Because they're thinking, these are the thoughts. I hear them all the time. Once I figure out the right thing, I'm finally going to feel fulfilled. You can't be fulfilled by trying to be fulfilled. You fulfill yourself. It's an inside job. And Ikigai doesn't work that way because you can have a perfectly aligned business. I can teach you all the things to do about a business. And then you can still live a deeply misaligned life. And you're going to know it when these things are happening. Relationships are draining you. If your body feels ignored, your calendar feels like it's going to, gobble you up. And your nervous system is fried every single day. That is not alignment. That is hustle. And in hustle, your ikigai cannot fully express. Alignment is holistic or it's just unstable. So, to bring this into a nice little tied up bow, Ikigai is a way of living. So, as we widen this lens of looking at it, Ikigai asks very different questions than hustle culture. I can assure you. The hustle culture, oh my gosh. How much did you do this? What are your numbers? What are your metrics? Oh, la, 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 la. Oh my gosh, it goes on and on and on. And I know how to do all of them. Unfortunately, I'm over it because it drives you insane and it eats your soul. So instead of what the hustle culture says, how do I scale faster? How do I make more? How do I do more? How do I go faster? Ikigai asks, where do I feel most myself? What activities restore me instead of drain me? What rhythms feel natural in my body? Oh my gosh, you have to start paying attention to your rhythms. Women especially, but men as well. And where am I forcing a version of my life that does no longer fit who I am? And this doesn't just apply to work. It applies to health and money and relationships, especially refers to your time, even how you rest. Ikigai is not about intensity because we have been taught that intensity and intensity is your intentions with your energy. But we've learned it to be hustle. Ikigai is about rhythm and soulfulness. Who are you at your soul level? Who are you at your core and what lights you up? So, if you've ever found yourself with this or some version of this idea, I've lived the version of success that looks impressive and I still feel empty. I'm craving something. I can tell you I've lived both. I have. I've also lived the beautiful version that feels quieter and deeply nourishing. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, my body and your body always knows when you're off. That deep nourishing is essential to our vitality and our longevity. But you know what? We just tend to override it or completely ignore it until it forces a conversation. And that's your body forcing a conversation because it comes generally in illness, whether it's mental or physical, and your body shutting down. So, how do you uncover your Ikigai? This is where I want to get a little practical, not rigid, because rigid is that hustle culture. Ikigai doesn't come from thinking harder. This is the thing, we're always in our heads. It comes from noticing patterns. So I'm going to invite you to explore this gently over the next few days. First, notice what energizes you. What activities do you do that make time disappear? You don't even know time is passing. Where do you feel calm and focused? What do people consistently thank you for? One thing I know is that energy is data and it's always giving us feedback. So, energy, what is it that lights you up and what depletes you? Number two is notice what depletes you. What feels heavy even when you're good at it? There is one of the keys. We can be so good at something and it depletes the absolute soul out of us. Those are the things we need to notice. Those are not your ikigai. Notice where do you procrastinate for no logical reason. Now, some of us have a habit of procrastinating. Some of us just put things off because we're avoiding it. What roles are you playing that feel like costumes? Where are you not being your true self? Depletion is information, not failure. It's such good feedback. Notice, this is the third one, notice your natural rhythms. When do you think best? I have always known my entire life I'm a morning person. I am not a nighttime person. My brain has completely shut down after about 4 o'clock, and it's a struggle to do anything else. Some people are just those nighttime people. These are your natural rhythms, but that's when you need to do your creations. And then when do you rest the best? Notice your natural rhythms. When you think the best, when you create the best, when you rest the best. Ikigai honors your rhythm, not this constant grind. And we've lost all connection with our rhythms in this success hustle community society. And then fourth, notice where you're overriding yourself. We say yes when we mean no so many times. So just notice this week, where do you say yes out of obligation? That is not ikigai. That is guilt. Where are you shrinking or performing not your authentic self? Where do you ignore your intuition to stay safe? We do that so much. We stay safe when our intuition is screaming, this is not the path. Ikigai requires honesty before action. So in 2026, it's time to begin to integrate Ikigai into every area of your life. This is for your own health, longevity, vitality, because this is the part that most people just skip altogether. Ikigai isn't a switch. It's a series of micro realignments. You don't have to blow your whole life up. Trust me. I've shared a lot of information with you. Don't try to do everything all at once. You soften it back into your truth. Start with these very micro realignments. Follow those questions, follow those breadcrumbs. What are they trying to reveal to you? It might look like things like simplifying your work instead of expanding it, earning differently, not necessarily more. There's always a different path. And when we're in our stuckness, we look as if there's only one way. Creating space instead of stacking goals on top of each other. Maybe it looks like choosing fewer relationships, but way deeper ones. And then letting your body lead instead of that silly to do list, because your body has all of the information you will ever need to guide you. And when Ikigai is present, you will begin to feel that money feels cleaner, easier. Decisions feel clearer. And yes, life feels quieter, but fuller. That's true abundance. So I promised you an abundance code. This is the code. Ikigai is the code. And abundance responds to alignment, not effort. So when you're in alignment, you're in Ikigai. And I know, yes, you're saying, if I work harder, I get more. Well, there is that path. And the question is, if you're not in your Ikigai and you are hustling and you are making more money, are you happy? Are you truly happy? Or do you have that outward success and you have that big gaping hole in your soul? You don't attract what you want. You can beat the bushes till you get it, but you attract who you are congruent with, who you're in coherence with. What is that energy that you are putting out into the world? When your life makes sense to this stress machine, this nervous system that keeps us on high alert all the time, opportunities stop feeling forced. That's true magic. That's coherence. That's alignment. That's being in Ikigai. So I'm going to leave you with this. You were never meant to hustle your way into meaning. It's a simple alignment and flow. You were meant to align into this overflow by being in the flow. Ikigai isn't something you find someday. It's something that you remember who you are and then choose yourself again and again and again in small, honest ways. Hustle is loud, so it gets the superstar spot because it's loud. And you have to become quiet to hear alignment, which is very, very quiet. But here is the real truth. Even though alignment is quiet, it always, always, always wins.